This is Mike Durr, Kingwood Mortgage Guy, and I have the fortune to be with Brian Grimm of Thoroughfare Home Inspections. And one of the things that a lot of the people that I work with always ask me is, how do you pick out the right home inspector, which is really a big deal. So I asked Brian to come spend some time with me and to talk about this particular subject. And so Brian, how do people choose the right home inspector?
Well, Mike, that's a very good question, and I get that a lot from people that are moving into Houston and into Texas. And I have 7 areas that I like to emphasize with people that I think are very important that they go through before they actually select an inspector. It should be kind of an interview process in my mind. The first thing that I would want to ask a prospective inspector is what license he holds. First off, let me tell you that in Texas, the whole inspection process for residential property is governed by the state of Texas through the Texas Real Estate Commission. That Real Estate Commission has very, very tough standards, and they're the ones who license inspectors to do this work. So there's 3 licenses that an inspector can have. The first one is an apprentice license. An apprentice license is one where that individual has to report back to a professional inspector. In other words, he cannot sign the report. So he's kind of the junior on the list. The second one is an inspector. Inspector quality is someone who can also do the inspection, but he has to have it signed off by a professional inspector. And then the last one, of course, is the professional inspector. He's the one who works on his own, can sign his own reports, and he can do the complete job. With each one of these degrees, if you will, of inspector, it requires a certain number of hours. The more the hours from apprentice going down to professional, there's many more hours of class time, and the exams are all different. They get harder as you go down to the professional level. So I would want to make sure that the inspector that I get is a professional inspector and that he can do the full job and sign his report and get it to me in a timely fashion. Another point that I would like to cover with a prospective inspector is how many years has that individual been in business, because that tells me how many inspections he's probably done, what kind of experience level that he has, and it gives you a much better comfort index if someone's been in the business quite a while and has seen a lot of things in real life. So make sure that you ask your prospective inspector, how many years have you been in business, and get that kind of information from him.
Real quick question on that. Is there a way to check up on that?
You can go to the Texas Real Estate Commission website, and every inspector has to have a 4-digit number. So that 4-digit number will tell you who they are. You go into the website and it will give you the information about when that person started in business, what kind of a license he holds, whether he's in good standing, and I believe it'll even tell you if there's been any charges or complaints brought up on that particular inspector.
Good.
The third area that I'd want to ask a prospective inspector about is how many inspections is he doing a day? And you say, well, why is that important? Well, it takes quite a number of hours to do a quality inspection on a residential piece of real estate. And if you're going from one to run to another, you kind of tend to be moving very quickly, and I think the quality can tend to suffer. So when you're talking to your prospective inspectors, ask him how many inspections they do a day, and if he says 1, great. If he says 2, that's kind of okay. If he says 3, I'd talk to somebody else. Okay, a fourth area that I would like to talk to a prospective inspector about is what additional certifications and experience does that individual have? And what I'm referring to here is code certifications. There's an international council, the International Code Council, that provides courses for inspectors that get deep into 4 specific areas of the home that only about 10% of the inspectors that you're going to interview out there have. Those 4 areas are electric, plumbing, heating and air conditioning, and building construction. Those 4 areas are extremely important for somebody to know the codes so that they can know exactly what they're looking for when they get into your house. Another area that I would like to ask a prospective inspector about is inspection time. how much time is he going to spend on my house doing the inspection, so that I'm sure that I'm going to get a very good and thorough job on that particular inspection. My personal standard, and I think most quality inspectors' personal standard, is 1 hour per 1,000 square feet. So if you're buying a 3,000 square foot house, figure that that inspector ought to be in there looking at all the various aspects of the house for at least 3 hours. Then, at the end, that inspector should offer to get with you at the end and talk to you about the things that he's found, the issues that he's found with the house, so that you can touch them, feel them, and understand what's going on with that house. Another area is the written report. In Texas, we're required to issue a written report. It's on a form that the Texas Real Estate Commission has specifically designed for inspectors. It's very comprehensive and it's very thorough. Some inspectors will give you a report on site. As they've done the inspection, they'll actually put it on a computer and have it printed out for you there. Others will give you a report within 24 hours to maybe a couple of days. My personal standard is the same evening you will get an email from me that will have your inspection report on it the same evening that I do the inspection. And the last question I would ask for an inspector before I would hire anybody is, do they have adequate insurance? Do they have liability insurance, so that if something goes wrong while they're doing the inspection on that house and it causes damage to the house, that there is adequate insurance for that person to be covered and the damage to be taken care of? Because remember, you're contracting with an inspector, and on that basis you are now in the mix as far as having some liability for that inspection potentially. And if something goes wrong, you hired the guy to come into the house and do it. So hopefully he would have the proper insurance to be able to take care of any problems that would occur in that area. Those are 7 areas that I think are extremely important to be talking with prospective inspectors about before you're ready to put the second or third or first most valuable asset in your life in somebody's hands to do an inspection. And I hope that's been very helpful to you.
Real quick, Brian, before you go, I got a couple questions for you. The first thing is, if somebody wanted to contact you about getting an inspection, how would they get in touch with you?
My phone number is here, 713-504-2768. That's my cell phone. I have that with me all the time. You can reach me there day and night, 7 days a week.
Fantastic. Now, another question. This one's a little more sensitive, because when people are, I've done mortgages where people chose not to do an inspection, and either they'd lived there for a length of time or they just didn't really care. What do you have? What are your comments about that?
I'll tell you, totally honest, Mike, I would not buy a residential piece of real estate in Houston, Texas, or anywhere around here without having it inspected. It just is good policy, because there can be a number of things that happen to a house that the owner doesn't know about, that the builder doesn't even know about, that the inspector will find, hopefully, and point out and will get fixed before there's major trouble after you move in. I think it's very, very, very smart policy.
Okay, this may offend you a little bit, but here's one where the realtors are concerned about some inspectors killing their deals because they over-inspect them, or at least in their perspective, they're over-inspection. What are your comments about that?
Well, I do hear that a lot. I get that a lot from real estate agents, and my response is this. I have to inspect the house according to the state of Texas standards. Like I said before, the Texas Real Estate Commission, it heavily regulates inspectors in the state of Texas, and we have to perform the inspections according to their minimal standards. The minimal standards are printed on the internet. You can go to the trec.gov website in Texas, and you can see 15 pages of standards that they want us to look at in these houses. There's hundreds of things. And the state of Texas's attitude is, we don't care if the house is a day old or 100 years old. If you see any of these things in the house, you have to tell the prospective buyer so that they know what they're getting into and they can make an intelligent decision. So we're bound by state statute to bring up all of these things. A lot of times in an older house, that means a long list of things. Maybe most of them are very minor, what I call routine maintenance that hasn't been done, and some of them can be major items. But it's going to be a long list in an older house. The newer the house, the list will kind of be less. But I'm going to tell you everything that I see there that I know the state of Texas requires me to do, because frankly they have some very stiff penalties if the inspectors fail to report things that the state requires that they report.
The last thing that I've seen with inspections is at the end of the inspection, in many cases, we always encourage the buyer, at least the husband, sometimes the spouse instead of the husband, it depends, to be there at the inspection with you. We think that that's a positive thing. I don't know if you like that or not, but I'm not going to change it anyway. But here's the point. Usually at the end, you'll get some kind of feel for what the quality of the house is at that point, and they're looking for some fatherly advice on, is this a deal that we should buy or not? Do you answer that question for them?
I try not to answer it directly. I kind of try to point out the things that I found with the house and say, look, what I value most in an inspection of a residence is it safe? Look at the safety issues that I'm going to put in the report, and those are the things that you ought to focus on first, and those are the things that you ought to be talking to your real estate agent about as far as getting fixed before you actually go through with the deal and move into the house. Make it a safe house.
Excellent. Well, listen, Brian, I can't thank you enough for coming and giving us this information. This is fantastic information for people like myself, who are the least handy person in Texas, or just a lot of the young kids that don't really know all these little details. So we really appreciate it. By the way, if you wanted to contact Brian, you're going to have his information complete when you get through looking at this video. So thanks a lot.
You're welcome, Mike. Thanks for the opportunity.